There is a world that is virtual and different. It can be so cold, makes us stand up for what's right. I hope still alive if we reset it to the start. Here we are going far to save all that we love. If we give all we've got, we will make it through. Here we are like a star shining bright on your world today. Make evil go away. Come your cold will reset it all. Come your cold, be there when you come. Come your cold, we will stand real tall. Come your cold, stronger after all. A world of machines, it can shadow human nature. And all that we need is the way to find the answer. And one thing is sure, you can count on us for good. Here we are going far to save all that we love. If we give all we've got, we will make it through. Here we are like a star shining bright on your world today. Make evil go away. Come your cold will reset it all. Come your cold, be there when you come. Come your cold, we will stand real tall. Come your cold, stronger after all. We'll do our best to never let you down. We're up to the test to turn this world around.
Are live. Hey everyone. Wait, I think it's working. Hey, you can make some little noise. Yes. Cool. Hey everyone. Welcome to this new fireside chat. And I'm with someone, not anyone. So special. I'm so happy to have you with us today. Okay, there's some people who are excited in the chat, so
Hey.
it's cool. Hey Pranav. Hey, he's one of the anomalies. Nice to see you in the chat. And if you are in the chat, join us right now. Ask questions. You can say whatever you want in the chat. Just be nice, please. And
Don't be nice. It's more funny that way.
yeah, okay. I told you I have a special guest. So we are so happy today to have you with us. Andreas, you are in Paris. Why?
Actually, I flew to London for a conference and a video shoot.
Okay.
I'm now doing a little YouTube channel that my wife calls a midlife crisis, basically,
Okay.
where I try to film startups.
Okay.
And she joined me for the trip and said like she wants to have 2-3 romantic days in Paris.
Okay.
And I don't know what's more romantic than doing this here.
With a pirate flag behind
With a pirate flag behind it, yeah. So we just connected like a little bit work and private life to this whole thing.
Cool.
But I also met like portfolio companies, LPs, and a few other things here.
Cool. I usually when people are here, I ask them for the one-liners. So
Mhm.
like what they are doing exactly.
Mhm.
For you, what's your one-liner? What are you doing?
My one-liner. I'm main questing fixing Europe right now. So
Okay.
what I do is I run a microfund solo GP model
Okay.
where I do very early stage investing into what I call foundational innovation, but like
Okay.
basically hardware, robotics, AI, this kind of
Ooh.
stuff. And additionally, I do a lot of projects that try to fix systematic issues in Europe. So like communities, then a big one is EU Inc., which is basically a pan-European legal entity that we're trying to make with Brussels into
Yeah.
reality. And a
Like
few other
science.
things.
Yes. I saw this the first day. I was like, yeah, I need to sign like that. That's
Nice.
really powerful.
Nice.
We need more of that.
Yeah. And so basically, I try to do a lot of things very badly,
Yeah.
so that people feel like, holy shit, if that idiot can do it, I can do as well.
Cool.
And then do better versions of what I had in mind, and
Cool.
kind of like just bias to action people into doing stuff.
Cool. Ask questions in the chat if you have any questions. And I have so many questions right now.
Yes,
and
please.
even you, I will have your time because we are with people here in our space and this feels so cool. First one, why a YouTube channel?
I over the last year spoke with like a ton of people who wanted to do an S3 for Europe,
Okay.
and none of them really got far with it. There's like a 2-3 projects which I think will do really amazing.
Yeah.
And at some point I was like, wait a minute, I actually really like video as a media. I like
Okay.
doing live streams. I like doing this kind of stuff, you
Yeah.
know. So it was like, maybe I just do it. And for me, the main idea with the YouTube channel is to have a very real POV on startups, like very authentic. So you like currently, like imagine you're early 20, which I think you can.
I'm not early 20.
How old are you?
28.
Yeah, that's early 20 for me.
Wait, how old are you?
Way older.
How?
44, something like that.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the midlife crisis. to
Yeah,
start
exactly. I
YouTube
told you.
channel.
Yeah, I told you. she's not like wrong with that. But basically, right now, if you're like in your early 20s, you have the blueprints you have for startups are either people in podcasts or in panels, hyper intellectualizing startups,
Yeah.
and they're like very smartish, reality distortion almost. Or you have like the Social Network and this kind of movies and TV shows that just hyper dramatize the whole thing,
Yeah.
but you don't have anything actual real. And
Yeah.
then if you look at actual playbooks they can follow in Europe right now, you have either become an indie hacker and do everything on your own and make money, and that works, or join YC in San Francisco and leave Europe. But there isn't anything that shows you like, hey, wait a minute, there's people doing really ambitious stuff right here that like has easily claimed to be number one globally. And if you put 5 years in, this could be you. You know what I mean? So my goal is like take a camera, go to companies that do, for example, robotics, film the workshop, talk with the founder, talk with the team, just show the real shit.
Cool. Our goal is to create the space for that.
Perfect.
So we
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Cool. We have some questions. Luke, how are you? Luke, he's one of the anomalies. He's from Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And he's dropping by Paris in not that long, I think, next week.
Cool.
So so excited to see you, Luke, here. And he's asking, how is you Inc. going?
Good. So
like, if you can explain, like, what is it, and how it's right now.
So basically, EU Inc. is the idea of creating a pan-European legal entity for Europe.
Okay.
So if you're used to startups like Think Delaware Inc., but like use this moment to also do a few more things, like basically have the equivalent of doing an Stripe Atlas for Europe. So like click, you have a company. The equivalent of like YC Saves. So like an email and you can get an investment and so on and so on. So like multiple, like just get the whole core infrastructure in Europe for startups on pan-European modern level. And the main reason behind this is simply scale. If you are like in Europe, we looked at the numbers, there's like less than 18% pan-European investing early stage. So like in your first round, it's very unlikely that anybody outside of your country is going to invest.
Exactly.
And that has multiple reasons, like historical and so on and so on. But like when very naive is like, I can attest to this as an angel or like investor, I wouldn't touch an Slovenian or Lithuanian or whatever legal entity because I don't have a local lawyer. I don't know what tax implications this has. It's just a headache I don't want to get into.
So like make the market one.
Yes, make the market one, completely unify. And basically what we did is we went with Auric, Bird, like multiple legal teams, plus like 100 open source contributors and figured out how could this legally work? Like what is the compromises you have to do, right? And then we also did like a petition with like 16,000 signatures.
Mine included.
Exactly. Cool. So people like Patrick, like Pat, we just call him Patrick, right? Like Paul Graham and these kind of people, and obviously you and me. And the idea here is to basically show to Brussels like there's the whole ecosystem behind this, you know. And the current state of it is the meta idea of it, so a pan-European legal entity using the 28th regime, which is the technical explanation for what we advocate. It's a little bit less catchy, I guess. Has been already like, it's like full support in Brussels by now. Like everybody wants it. It's officially number one in the European startup and scale up strategy paper, or what it's called. That's basically their roadmap. There is like the number one, and there is multiple work groups on this topic specifically, and we are working with like multiple GGs on this, and so on and so on. The state where we're currently at with the whole thing is like now we have, at least in Brussels, everybody wants this. And the big challenge here is now like what exactly? So you can have the same goal,
Yeah.
but if you stack rank priorities differently, you come up with a different solution.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially within startups, this is yes, great with a pan-European legal entity, but nobody can use it. Is like not the outcome we want, right?
Exactly.
And we advocate very specifically for a specific set of priorities, which is currently the main challenge to get like Brussels on board with this, then the member states on board with this, and so on and so on.
Cool. We have still some other questions. Saish, I'm seeing you. Andreas for map.
Yeah, it's on.
Cool. Eric, he's asking Andreas, what is your top 3 tips on posting product launches on Producthunt? Okay. Everyone wants to know the secrets.
Yeah. Okay. So for quick context, I was CTO of Producthunt.
Yeah.
And founding team. To be very honest, most of my time when I worked at Producthunt, I actually only had like mock data in front of me because I was constantly working in development environments and staging environments. Exactly. It was always like fake company name LY and .ai, and this kind of stuff in front of me. So I'm actually not the biggest expert.
Okay.
What I genuinely think is the one thing that most people get wrong is if I click on if I read it, I should get it if it's interesting for me.
Okay.
And if I click on it, the landing page, like it sounds so obvious, but like I should be able to get what the thing is doing.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The one-liner.
It's a one-liner, context, whatever. And that's like the number one thing most people fail at, which is surprising. And then the other thing is like, it should be very clear, is this something for me very quickly, And then there should be enough that gives me a sense of like how credible this is, like actual product thoughts, like actual, like why is this useful in what context, so that I understand that you really thought about the problem and so on and so on. This is like, if you get that, you're already like in a top, like better than 99%. The other challenge, in my opinion, that what sucks with Producthunt to some extent is most people who use Producthunt are obviously like people who want to build products, early stage startup people, product interested people, engineers, indie makers, and so on and so on. So if you launch like a very, very good CSS library, you might like easily be better than a very complex, very important specific solution for lawyers.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the lawyer solution might make 100 times more money, but like the ranking of the CSS will be more popular because everybody's like, I will use this for my next side project, upvote. So that would be my tricks.
Okay, make something simple in a way.
Make people realize what you're actually doing. And it's so funny because like the more you spend time in these internal meetings in a team and like market, like I always call them like you can feel the marketing meeting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you like have like so many internal iterations that at some point what's on the marketing copy has nothing to do with the reality anymore. Yeah. Because it just like went this so many times. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Cool. Do we have any questions here? By the way, nobody. Okay, we take a Pranab. Always.
Okay, nobody but him. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
So my question to you was,
yes.
So my question to you was, while you were starting off with Producthunt, you must have realized that community is insanely powerful, but also it needs to be tended to. So what are your learnings from the early days of Producthunt that you can apply to bringing different kinds of communities, like in this case with EU Inc., the entire European Union, the tech ecosystem, but like for Anomaly Space or any other communities that are being built, what would you say?
Cool.
Awesome question. I have no freaking idea. We cut this.
So just to repeat the question for people inside live stream. So it's more like how, with all your learnings on Producthunt, how we create community, how we create like hype around a product, how we can apply that for EU Inc., for Anomaly Space, or for whatever other community that might need those tricks and strategies.
Yes. Number one, you need somebody like Ryan. Ryan.
We love you, Ryan.
The founder of Ryan is like one of the most genuine person ever. He actually cares about other people, and you need somebody who is like almost like approaches it like a game, like constantly like see everything, do everything, run after everything, and constantly like if there's any little request, instantly jump on it, like this kind of like urge, and then hire people so that he doesn't do it anymore. But it's a different discussion. That's number one. And number two is like so like two thoughts actually in this. Like number two on this is community in the end is like hundreds of thousands of little one-on-one interactions to some extent. So it's like all of that, like the fact that you know, like Luke, for example,
Yeah.
like, did you know all of them individually?
Yeah.
That's actually community building on the
Yeah.
long run, because that shows to people that are willing to spend their time with your community
Yeah.
that it's actually appreciated, but also like worth their time to some extent,
Yeah.
right? That's number one. And then number two, in my opinion, you're never building community. Community to some extent already exists. What you usually end up doing is creating like a communication between that people.
Okay.
So very frequently, community ideally attaches to something bigger.
Yeah.
Like so, for example, in your case, it's not like the anomaly space.
Yeah.
It's the fact that people actually want to build awesome stuff.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that you want to like drive them and like
Yeah.
bias to action, ambition,
Yeah.
get going, like this kind of stuff, right? And
So the space is just like a point of rendezvous at the
yes,
moment. That's
yes,
all.
yes,
But what matters is it's like the culture behind. It's like
yes.
all that we all here have the same needs
Yes.
again, and we just need a meeting point at the
Yes.
moment.
So like to some extent, you are creating, like people call it like the term platform is a little bit
Yeah.
like overused, but like to some extent, you're creating more like a platform,
Yeah.
like meeting space, communication platform, whatever you want to make it in the end, where you just create a possibility for that community to actually attach to these values, to connect with each other, and so on and so on.
Cool.
And that's what a lot of people who are thinking of like I want to build a community don't get that, like because that's why like a lot of communities of like I don't want to say names, like more feel like customer care support forums, than actual communities. You know what I mean? So it's always about something bigger.
Yeah.
Like people don't want to attach to you, me, brands, or whatever, or companies. They want to attach to something that's important to themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like religion in a way.
Yes.
So, yeah.
No, I generally think so. Like religion, in the historic sense, had the role of this,
Exactly.
like a cross-regional platform where people can connect to something bigger and have like intersection for that. Yeah.
Cool. Another.
We're starting a church essentially, is what you're saying.
Let's move to the next question. So yeah, cool. Pranav is asking, what's the biggest product bets you've made recently?
The big I have one really big one which I can't talk about because it's like the investment isn't like fully closed and it's completely stealth.
Okay.
Another
one.
If that shit works, I genuinely like whatever. No, like for me, it's like if I, as an engineer, I'm like, sorry, but this is sorcery. You know what I mean? Then it's like when it's like getting scary to me.
Cool.
Then it's like a good sign. Okay, stuff that's public. Big bet. Okay, one is actually in Paris because we're in Paris, right?
Yeah. We don't have croissant, but
yeah,
it's okay.
I ate a croissant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was my product bet. Turns out they're good. No, so there's a company in Paris called Lightpanda, which they're basically rebuilding browsers from scratch for AI agents. So if you think about like an AI agent needing to open a website, they have two options. One is like they script the HTML, or they use Chromium to like render the whole thing, take a screenshot, and then like understand the screenshot.
I think I heard about them. Yeah.
Good. Cool. And what they basically do is they build as a browser from scratch that doesn't do a rendering step.
Yeah.
So you basically open the website and you have the state as an AI agent. You have the interactions. You have the basically state and actions is that the end goal here.
Ooh.
And the problem to do this, you basically need to build the browser from fundamentally scratch.
Exactly.
And anybody who wants to build a browser from scratch, in my opinion, is on a religious journey and should be supported.
Yeah.
Like you have to have a certain level of like I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
That's not even like a grit anymore. That's more like, I don't know, an enjoyment of suffering. Yeah. Because it's a very tedious process to get this right. Like a friend of mine also did like a browser from scratch. He's called Andreas Kling. Cool. Great name. Like he's Andreas Kling, I'm Andreas Klingers, and somebody created an account that's called like Andreas Klingest, because the existence of klinger has to like mean that there's a Klingest as well. So anyway, and he actually also built a browser, and he also used it almost like to get out of like his history of drugs and all this kind of stuff. So like it's a journey to do this. It's really, really tedious and hard. And they are based in Paris. If that works, if they actually manage to pull this off, it will be minimum 10x faster, realistically 50x faster. It will be like a default tool for like the whole AI infrastructure, worldwide. And it will realistically be one of the cornerstone infrastructure companies in Paris.
Cool, like that. Another question, and then I will take question from here. Prepare your questions. Do you think we are likely to achieve the goals and priorities of EO Inc. in any time soon?
Yeah, cool.
Good question.
So the official So the official goal of the commission right now is what they at least say,
Yeah.
is they want to have something that can be voted on
Okay.
by essentially member states, but parliament and like other things, by end of this year.
Cool.
Which means if that works out and then everything else works out, their goal is to have the first EU Inc. by end of 2027. So that means for me 2028 in reality,
Okay.
you know. But that sounds really far away,
Yeah.
and I complain to my policy people like, why is this so slow, and like, why don't we get this meeting earlier, and like, what's the issues? And they look at me terrified. They look at me like, are you insane? This is like hyperspeed. Okay, so for not only government, but like Brussels government or in general government, this is hyperspeed, because you have to understand that you have to get like all these different member states who like don't want to give away authority to agree on something.
Yeah.
You know,
Which
in a process that's
okay.
intentionally made to be inefficient from my point of view, at least.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
And the analog to this, the SE, which stands for Société something, had needed like 30 years to get done.
Okay, so 3 years is already good.
Apparently.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Apparently.
I understand. Cool. Another question from Luke. Any question here? Okay.
Can I first see you?
Yes. Take the mic. And-
Right now really good in, and like the third one is like what I would like to see more of. What I personally interested in is anything in the intersection of like engineering wise hard, little bit weird, so a little bit too early, you know, but kind of makes sense, and ideally attached to some large vector of something that's anyway. Audio is cutting.
No, it's good. But it's funny because like the audio cut it at the moment.
Yeah.
And now I see that there is so many people in the chat that didn't put any message.
Because
so
you have like 30 seconds delay on the stream.
Yeah. So
okay.
it's a good trick to know if there is people. You just cut the audio. People are like, there is no audio. So I'm like, oh, there is so many people in the chat. Cool.
You just break something so everybody complains.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Okay.
I will do it often.
Okay, sorry, to get back.
Yes.
What I personally like, hard engineering meets kind of weird, a little bit too early, and ideally to some market vector that anyway pushes up, or like technology vector that pushes up. So in the sense of like, if you end up being complete idiots, for example, like we at Product Hunt early on were, like the general trend pushes this stuff anyway. So you can fail upwards almost, you know what I mean? And that, for example, in engineering means like you're working in an intersection of technologies where by default a lot of progress is happening, for example, you know? What Europe is generally good in is depends on the region. So Paris is obviously very, very good on the software AI layer right now. In Munich, Zurich region, you're very good in the intersection of computer vision and manufacturing, automation, which you can call robotics, for example, but also like computer vision in general. That can be like reasoning, 3D generation, all this kind of stuff. And like you have multiple spots in Europe that are very good in certain fields. And very frequently, like if a company from that region does something in that field, that's a very strong sign by default, but doesn't have to be only in that region, obviously. Stuff that I personally would like to see more is I like to think through like what is the full stack that we need in Europe in innovation to be fully sovereign, and ideally stuff that tackles these stacks. So for example, in AI, it's not just like we need the models, we also need like the energy, we need the data centers, we need the semiconductors, we need the connectivity between the machines, we need the like then the AI models, but like also like new kinds of variants and different approaches or like on this kind of stuff. Then we need the application layer and so on, you know. And you can do the same thing for everything. You can do it for dev tech, you can do it for like any kind of industry, and even within the stack, you can do the same. Like what do you need to get to energy abundance? And usually the stuff that like goes after this, I right now see like as like personally as extremely interesting, because you also have like the governments being behind this. You have like multiple larger funds intentionally pushing towards this, and we have now this interesting moment in time where there wasn't a value in being the second best in something or the third best in something, but there's now a huge value if there's a strategic reason why they should be like in Europe. So like all of a sudden you're like, that by itself is already like a really good reason to invest, because now customers are more intentional, governments are more intentional, and so on and so on.
Cool. Hey hey Lucas, hey Maya. I see so many people. Hey John.
I like your engagement
Emmanuel.
hack. I should do this.
Thanks. So let's take another question, this time from Tom, because we already take one question from Luke and Pranav. 24 now, started first company in Germany at 18. Congrats. Now have US C Corp, did ODF 25 in SF, ODF, I think. Considering moving there, Europe too hard for tech. Any reason to stay in Europe, Andreas? Good question. Why founders or builders should stay in Europe?
So first of all, I was actually the CTO at OnDeck, so like the ODF thing. I'm personally a big fan of San Francisco. I think anybody in engineering should have worked at one point in their life. It's like you'd start thinking about stuff differently. My goal is not to...
What do you mean by differently?
That they're thinking of like what is the ideal solution and then working backwards, versus like what can be done and then working like pathfinding forwards.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that for engineering, but for everything else as well, obviously. That's inspiring there. The other thing that's inspiring there, you go to like a random event or party and you're like, you're doing something like that's you, shit. And then you have this regularity, which is really, really inspiring.
Cool.
So personally, I'm a big fan of it. My goal is not to convince everybody to stay in Europe. Like if for them it's right to go there. And
but the question was like, is there any reason to stay here in Europe?
I would turn the question around, like what is needed to make it Europe the best place to innovate and live. And then work yourself towards that. And then by doing that, you have like an alternative option when people are like, okay, actually there's like a lot of things that make me keep here. Like I have a very good team here. I have like hiring arbitrage. I have like all these advantages here. I have like local talent I can hire from academia very efficiently, all this kind of stuff, and then have like enough of like a system around them that they don't have a systematic disadvantage. So my goal is like my goal is not for any founder to say like you're not allowed to go to the States. My goal is to like it's not like I'm doing this alone, but like my ideal vision is like that in Europe you have a system where you as a founder have an alternative and can as easily succeed. And that needs time, that needs work, but that's the goal.
But for now,
easier access to talent. If you're the coolest company in Paris, you will get easier, better talent here than you will get in San Francisco by with a margin. They will stay longer. Like in Paris, in San Francisco, the typical retention is like 1.5 years, if you're lucky. And for context, for example, in producthunt, we were hiring remote. And when I told other CTOs what my retention in my team is, they thought that I'm scared to fire people or something because like people just stayed. So like it's hiring good people, being able to keep them. It's not even a salary. Like salary is like a function of that, but like just the fact that you have actually people who are really excited to work with you and want to stay and not constantly opportunity hopping, and with most good hires, you need like half a year to really have them like be one of the core cogs in your machine. You know what I mean? That's number one. Number two is, from my point of view, at least academia and IP. There's insane amounts of really, really good academia, IP, researchers here that would be insanely hard to get access to in the States. That's number two. Number three for me is that there's right now a very, very interesting moment if you pick the right industry to have like almost like a free uplift. So that can be manufacturing, like anything hardware, basically automation, hardware, manufacturing. You can do the whole game of like the SaaS for every industry can now be the robot for any industry. And you will have a lot of like investors and governments intentionally pushing this. DevTech is the best example, and so on and so on. And then number four, there's actually genuinely topics and areas where we are better. So computer vision, you can easily hire a team in Munich that can compete with a team in San Francisco, like on any day. In my opinion, also with teams in China, which is like, depends on point of view. You can do if you do dev tech. Estonia right now is the best place to start a dev tech company, a part of Kiev. But like you have the Kiev Tallinn link right now, really really active, and you can play this game for multiple vectors, like industries. So for example, anything around. Like it's currently like a no-go topic, but like climate tech, like the Nordics, and so on and so on. Like there's multiple areas where you actually have here better hubs right now than in the States. The problem you have in the States by default, or the advantage you have, is that the market, the system is just bigger and more interconnected. So anything that like gets momentum will get like faster momentum. Because
so
of
we go big at one moment. And the food in Europe, no.
Sure. he looks at me and he's like, that guy likes to eat. That's just offensive.
No, like you talked about talent, about like governments and how they can help and all this, and you forgot the food. So I was like, even though
he's calling me low-key fat right now.
No.
That's kind of like insane.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So another question. Oh, I have too many questions. Cool. Let's say Clement. Sometimes it feels like product hunt is taken over by companies with big budgets, making it much harder for indie hackers to promote their small projects. Thoughts on making it more fair for everyone? Cool.
I do like ask the product hunt team. I'm like out there like since quite some time.
Okay. Okay.
There's issues with it. I don't disagree, but I don't publicly like holy shit disagree. If this makes any sense.
Okay, I will cut this in the.
No, you can keep it. That's cool.
So Nicola, whose business started Cool Robotics, by the way. In your opinion, how might the current geopolitical landscape affect the EU startup ecosystem? Good question.
Jesus. Now we're getting to the hyper intellectualist. Fuck. How might the current geopolitical landscape the EU startup ecosystem? I need to keep this question because that's something I can throw into almost any panel. And like that's like a really really good question where like there's like, okay, let's talk about this for 5 hours without saying anything. So now wait. So
30 seconds.
What is the current geopolitical thing? We are like now living in a time where we have a global economic recession, which people don't acknowledge. But like globally, you have like job loss. Globally, you have the market going down, and so on and so on. It's different regions react differently to it. Like in the States, everything is going like we first, everybody else sucks. In Europe, it's like self-flagellation. We suck so much. Russia is kind of like, this is my last chance, and China is like, thank you gods, this was our moment. The other effect of this is by default, people are like less optimistic about the future for valid reasons. So they are voting people into power that give a sense of control. Like the strong man, for example, or like it can be like the strong man or the person who makes a lot of promises and this kind of things, So what will happen by default is you will have a lot of the hot topics become more hotter, like immigration and so on and so on, and unemployment and like inflation. And usually the center parties don't have good answers. You get like all the fringe parties popping up. You have this everywhere right now, globally. So we are now like a little bit forward. Now we are like in a time where you have like a Trump, Xi, Orban, Putin, like multiple others where you can argue that their main goal is to centralize power, like centralize powers to them to some extent, right? And also make politics about them. So you are all of a sudden in a world where I will make this shorter. TLDR, right now, Europe has a legit chance to be the backup of democracy, has a legit chance of being the drone factory for the free world. Because, for example, the US isn't able to sell these kind of parts like globally right now for multiple reasons and so on, but also because we are currently yet inherently democratic to a fault, and so there's a high chance that, like, for example, in dev tech we will become one of the hubs. And the funny thing is we used to be one of the hubs always, like France, Germany, Austria, like Sweden, like Finland. They're like the weapons producers. So like in dev tech this will be a thing. The other thing is that we can no longer rely on supply chains because this, like wars and crisis and like people like throwing around like alliances, but also like you had the pandemic and everything, so people see like nearshoring is important. We have to have like we have to be full stack for multiple reasons, because otherwise you're fully dependent, right? So all of a sudden, like automation of agriculture instead of like just like import everything, you know,
Okay.
manufacturing here locally instead of import everything.
Yeah.
So like the whole
So,
idea.
how to create like an autonomous society
Yes, yes.
for the future.
And a lot of this, the answer to this is in many cases like innovation.
Yeah.
It's like robotics, it's
Yeah.
new materials,
Yeah.
it's like automation and so on and so on,
Cool.
right? So this is where startups shine.
Yeah.
Because it's really, really hard for a government to do this. It's really hard for a big
Yeah.
company to do this.
So
And
this is startup moments.
in
right
my
now.
opinion, yes.
Cool. I like that. Luke is asking if I can ask his question. What is your question, Luke? Which was
We can hear you at all. I need to use this hack.
every time it will work.
We had this already.
Yeah, we've already asked this one. What do you think about momentum as at the very early days of startup? How much people should be working? How much progress should be made first few months and so on?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
was your experience here? Yeah, what's the speed?
This is, by the way, one of my pet peeve topics in Brussels.
Okay.
It's always like we have enough startups, we don't have enough scale-ups. And I'm
Yeah,
like, that's a weird POV because what we actually lack is early stage momentum.
Yeah.
It's really hard for a startup here to quickly raise, quickly hire, quickly scale to new
Exactly.
customer segments and so on, due to fragmentation.
Yeah.
So from my point of view, momentum is everything in startups.
Okay.
It doesn't even need to be revenue. If you are having a lot of traction, and traction is whatever you say in your company is like a credible traction, you know, if you have a lot of traction, everybody else wants to support you.
Yeah.
Because in startups, everybody wants to invest in the winner.
Yeah.
You know, so monumentum, monument, is that pronounced in English?
Yeah.
Speed- momentum. Yeah, this makes more sense. Momentum is the number one thing for startups.
Cool.
Like nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agree.
There's the problem with momentum is that it's not about just how hard you work, how much you work, but also like what do you focus on.
Yeah.
So it's much more about prioritization in many cases. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So a lot of people think if they just create a very hostile, toxic work environment where they scream at everybody, and everybody just like is afraid and just like constantly does some crap, you know, they will get momentum. This is not true. You need to create like, momentum is a vector.
Yeah.
It's not like there's difference between motion and momentum if you want, you know. It's like the goal is not to move quickly. The goal is to like have a vector.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people fail at, in my opinion, to figuring out what is the prioritization of this vector. And like the problem you have here is it's really easy to confuse motion with momentum. So do you need to work a lot early on? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You know, is this the only defining metric? Most likely not, because the problem we have is like all of that shit is knowledge work. So if you fry out your brain by like constantly working 24 hours, you will make shittier and shittier prioritization, and the stuff you do will be more and more useless. You will be worse at like synchronization people, and you will be worse at like enabling them to also speed up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Cool.
So yeah.
So cool. Another question I've seen.
By the way, I'm like very system theory. I can't. You know, like you give me like, how's the weather? And I'm like, let me draw you a graph. So like at any point, stop me if I talk too much.
No, I like it. I think we like it here. Yes. Cool. So Maya is asking us, she's in the Normal Space. She's from Sweden and building a cool software wine company.
Nice.
That's cool. We need more of that, even though I'm not a wine drinker. So how do people find good teammates?
The French people in the room are like, what the fuck?
I love something else, but I cannot promote them because they aren't sponsors for now. So I will just do this. So yeah, that's my drink for now. But they aren't sponsors for now. So one day. How do people find good teammates, like especially in early stage where you can't pay employees? Good question. How do you find the good people to work with you?
That's super hard. It depends what stage, what kind of team members, what level. You know what I mean?
In the beginning, like you just started.
So let's start with co-founder.
Yeah.
Let's say you're.
So the question is how you find a good co-founder. Okay.
So number one is how do you limit the pool of, like, you need to be very precise what you need.
Okay.
So ideally the set of co-founders, if you intersect them, are exactly what your company does.
Okay.
And ideally the lead founder, like there's usually one dominant founder, CEO or whatever, like there's one lead founder, should be almost like a personification of that thing.
Okay.
You know, that's like the ideal founder setup.
Just like producthunt and Ryan.
Yeah,
in a way.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like Ryan is like producthunt as a person.
Yeah.
You know, even to this day.
It's true.
And so how do you attract good people?
Yeah.
You know, so for example, with attracting good engineers, so like let's say you're like a business founder, you have a very good specific idea what you want to build,
Okay.
you know, and you want to attract like a very good technical co-founder, right? Most technical co-founders prefer, if you already have traction with customers, that you come to them and they're like, hey, I built this prototype with like Lovable, with no code tools, whatever, you know, or with email and spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And I have all these customers trying to give me money and
Yeah.
it works, but like this kind of stuff and this kind of stuff, you give them an actual problem worth scaling.
Okay.
It's so easy to build software for crap that never sees the light of day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so
Yeah.
easy to
Agreed.
like to find people who have a great vision but never get any traction. It's really like to like if you want to stand out
Yeah.
and want to attract a technical co-founder, have something worth scaling, like have a puzzle, have a problem, like something that's actually worth their time. You know what I mean? And this sounds obvious, you know, but like a lot of people just don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, they that's a very common problem. You
So
know,
they look for people why they don't have products.
what I'm trying to say is like have traction.
Yeah.
And people will want to join you.
Okay,
So, for
cool.
example, that can mean you have a prototype, you have customers. It can also mean that, for example, it's very complex. Let's say it's like robotics, you know,
Yeah.
and that you actually actively like learning into this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't expect you to build the one product that will hit production in the long run,
Yeah.
but I expect you to be able to, on the long run, build something like this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And like be able to somehow do the thing you want to do.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And prove a lot of things with it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that's what I usually recommend. And then like teammates is a whole own beast on discussion.
Cool. Thank you, Sylvain, for dropping by. Is there any question here? So we can take maybe some 1 or 2 questions. No.
By the way, guys, I'm like radio. At some point, just turn me off, right? Like,
For now, it's cool.
Yeah.
Let's take another question from here. Or
I
Saish.
have a question.
and you film yourself.
Yes. So my question to you is, prototype capital. Why did you raise it? Why was the decision taken to move from angel investing to building an actual fund? And what does the fund thesis or whatever, like you said, it's like European tech stack in a way, but like fund. What's the fund math behind it essentially?
Mhm.
What kind of exit scenarios are you looking at? What kind of companies are you looking at? Like because tech stack is great, but the one thing that Europe has been lacking for a long time has been this glass ceiling of exit markets.
Yes.
So what is your take on fund math on that?
Okay. That's again like 50 questions at once. So the question was like, why did I start a fund? What is the model behind the fund, the theme behind the fund? And also like, what is the economic, let's call it portfolio construction behind it. Okay, so why did I start a fund? I worked at Angelist. I was VP at Angelist after the acquisition of producthunt. If you work at Angelist long enough, you will have a fund. It's like a work hazard. I don't know. It's like, there's like people who have like very health conditions after work. At Angelist, at some point, you have a fund. Main reason for me why I wanted to do this, because I personally really care about the meta level of the startup ecosystem. So I always did like communities, like producthunt, Angelist, on my fund now, EOInc, all of that is very meta level, right? And another reason is because I introduced a lot of my friends to VCs and they never took the recommendation that seriously, because I invested like 5K or something like that, because I didn't have the money, right? So at some point I was like, screw this, I will raise like a small niche fund. And that was like in 2019. And back then the idea was like, I realistically cannot do like yet another. I need to be very niche. And I raise like from a community in that niche and invest in that niche and be the go-to person in niche. And that niche back then was like global work. So the idea was like, how does the world change if more people work online? What do you need for tooling? But also like, what is the second degree effects? And so on and so on. So I invested in a lot of stuff that's like later on became like known as remote work. And then COVID came. And made me look very smart, a part of like, global pandemic and all of that kind of stuff. But made me look like very smart about like investments. But one thing I realized is actually a lot of the topics I'm interested in is no longer attracting the freaks, because all of a sudden remote work was no longer like, how can I hack the system? But it was like HR, right? And the other thing I realized is I talked to really, really good engineering teams, and I'm scared to say the names here. And we're like, yes, sorry, my fund is focusing on this other topic, but I will make introductions for your angel round. and then like and then afterwards I was like, why the fuck am I doing this? This feels stupid. And I wish, and like I don't want to say the names now, but it's like embarrassingly big companies now. And then I was at some point like with I did Fund 2, and I was like kind of like, okay, this is stupid. I should focus on engineering products because that's the stuff I care about. So I switched towards like developer tooling, infrastructure, and more hardware, but still with a very global angle. So I did AI agent frameworks in Brazil, like Crew AI. I did satellites in India, and a few others, like kind of like very global video AI in San Francisco, and so on and so on. And then during COVID, I came back to Europe, and I had an issue because like a lot of people that I also knew personally on Twitter started to hating on Europe. So it switched of like making like not caring about it or making fun of it, to almost like I don't know what's the right term. Like hating is not even the right, like almost like power fantasy, some kink shit, like I live in Berlin. I notice when people have like some sort of like a bully kink or something, what I mean? And that was like basically Twitter at that point. And I was like, this is very annoying to me because for two reasons. Number one, all the thing they say is like wrong. And number two, all the things they say are right. And I'm like, fuck. So this is like where I started to like, hey, we need to do like different mindset in Europe, like community stuff, we actually need also the system. And then at some point I was doing this so much that I didn't have time to actually do proper sourcing in India. But I got like a lot of inbound in Europe of like really insane founders, and was like, okay, fuck this. And I also had like moments where I'm like, hey, there's a really good company that could be competitive with ASML in Berkeley. Actually, I don't want a company in Berkeley being competitive with ASML, and I'm like, okay, this is getting to the point where I make economic decisions that might not be the best interest of my LPs. So I should make this public to my LPs at least, and told them, look, I'm now focusing more on this topic, and now like with the new fund that's fully focused on it, and then I just like streamlined this and was said like, okay, screw this, like the new fund is completely on this topic.
Cool. We have one question from Lucas. Big Naval fan here. How is it working with him? Did you work with Naval?
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
First disclaimer, I didn't work with Naval, I worked for Naval.
Okay.
Just to get like the level of authority right. Okay. It wasn't like, hey bro. Insanely smart. He's the kind of person you do a walking meeting with him. I drank like 3 cups of mushroom tea before, 2 cups of coffee, slept really well intentionally, and had like very like in my brain, like already like the bullet points I want to discuss about, and also like stuff that recently happened, like opinion about. And then, like, okay, I think I'm ready, and then later on I found out like everybody feels like that, which is, I don't know, scary. So like insanely smart. Number one. Number two, he I'm not following him on Twitter anymore, but like he had this phase where he did like a lot of intentional writing on Twitter, where he almost became like a Zen Buddhist for tech, he always called it like writing. So marriage was very much inspired by philosophy, where you like distill a thought until it's like punchy, right? The funny thing what I regularly as an experience is like he had the first part of a tweet in a discussion, and then the second part was very like a little bit bubbly, fluffy, not really there yet, but like the message was there. And then like 3 weeks later, you have like both compressed as a tweet, which was like very interesting. So like none of the things was fake. Like all of that was like how you actually talk about it. But a part of that, he's also the person that on Friday is like pissed if he can't find a person to play Smash with him, So he's also the kind of person who tells you like any money you have right now, put into Bitcoin, everything else doesn't matter. And like, come on, this guy's crazy. That was like at Bitcoin 5,000 euros, I think,
It's not the same right now.
And then in hindsight, maybe I should trust the guy who made billions with money advice. So yeah, I personally appreciate it a lot. What I learned from him was it's better to explain people how you think about stuff than to explain what you think about stuff, because they don't need to bother you all the time afterwards. So with him, you had a discussion, and then afterwards, when even like a different topic came up, you already knew what he would say.
What would Naval do?
Yeah, and that was like very, very powerful as a management enabler, because then you're no longer like you're basically enabled to make your own decisions, which is really, really powerful in management.
Cool. Tom was asking, I know talents are here. We have customers here. Food is a big one. However, Europe lacks funding.
Yes.
It's really hard to get started.
I fully agree. Period.
How we solve that?
By making it one big block,
Okay.
EU Inc.
Okay.
So make it easy for an angel investor in Poland to invest in a company in Paris.
Okay.
And by that scale the potential pool of angels, and then by that force people to make faster decisions, become better angels, become better early stage investors, and no longer be like local rent seekers. Like Paris is Paris is obviously like in a, I think, top 1 or top 2 position here. So like you guys are like in a good place.
Yeah.
But there's areas in Europe where literally people are, the whole justification to be an investor is the fact that they're there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
so
that's
it's
like,
different,
that's not efficient. That's number 1. Number 2 is structural. We need to get, right now, a lot of European large funds, pension, wealth, and so on, are actually not investing in VC. And more importantly, even if they're not investing in VC, they're investing in the States. So like all of their money goes to like S&Ps in the States and like all of this kind of stuff, and then they're surprised that the local economy doesn't work, which is to me insane, but that's the reality we're in. So we need to get these funds to actually focus on Europe, but also like focus on VC to some extent. VC is a high risk class, but even if it's like a few percent. In comparison, I think in the States, a typical large VC fund has 30% pension funds. In Germany, it's 1%, and that's already like... Yeah, I guess. Yeah. And in France Digital, for example, has like a strong push to change this and so on and so on. That's needed. Number 3, again, systematic, unfortunately, we need some way to have an exit in Europe. And that should be, in my opinion, like a way to stock list, for example, on every stock exchange at once, so like that they're actually unified to some extent. Or worst case, create a separate one, completely digital. There's no reason that the founders of, for example, Revolut or some other big fintech company don't start a stock exchange in cooperation with somebody who created a big stock exchange in the past. Like that's absolutely doable. Like stock exchanges in many cases are private companies. Like that thing would be doable. It just somebody needs to like say, screw this, let's do this. And that's like all structural. A part of that, we need to weed out a lot of like really just bad funds. Good people, ex-operators, and this kind of stuff needs to start funds. There's like a whole generation of new early stage funds in Europe that invest like pan-European very aggressively, which is good. There's a whole generation of like larger funds who are very aggressive about investing, not in the sense of like a lot, but like bold bets. My favorite one right now is Plural in London/Estonia. They make what I call like foundational innovation bets. So they don't have the goal to talk with every founder. They go the other way around. They look at TRL levels of technology, look who is the academia and like who is the places in Europe that have a legit chance to actually do this, and then figure out a way to make a company or like start with like find somebody there, right? And that's how they did like a lot of like crazy stuff. Like Proxima Fusion is like a recent one that went very big. Sunrise is a recent one in manufacturing, and they have like dozens of those.
And how people can support EU Inc. today?
There's 2 easy ways. One is signing. That's always a good one. And the number 2 is like promoting. And there's one harder one is introduce me to your leaders.
Okay.
Prime ministers, presidents, ministers.
I can do that.
I don't know if he's joking, but I assume he's not.
I'm not joking.
Okay. That's the number 2, because the problem you have, how Europe is set up, it's actually all the powers with the member states. And then Brussels acts as like a scapegoat/delegated debate club. So they're either like figuring something out, and then if you like it, great. If it does something good, great. If you don't like it, they're a scapegoat. If it goes bad, they're a scapegoat. So it's a very weird setup, where the actual powers with the member states. So you need to get to the member state leaders.
Okay, I can help. No worries.
Easy. What a flex. This is how he rolls. Who do you need? I call him Mackie.
Cool. It has been kind of 1 hour. We'll just take maybe one last question in the chat. So please, if you have any question, put it right now in the chat. So we'll take one last one. And is there any last question here? Or it's okay for everyone? Yeah, Claudio, tell me. The mic, the camera, and in chat, ask questions, guys. Saish, we see your hand. Yes, now we don't see your hands. Cool, thank you. Just your big hand in front of camera. That's funny.
So talking about these vectors, I was thinking about 2. Like one is this that comes from computer vision, that is world modeling.
Yes.
So we've seen a lot of investment in there.
Yes.
and there it's obviously that it's tightly related with robotics.
Yes.
But to be honest, I think that there's no easy way, I think, right now for a lot of founders around Europe to start robotics. I think that there are a lot of open source repositories, there's a lot of open source information, but when it comes to starting, you really need funding. You really need at least 5K, 6K, that most of the students that are the ones that are on the edge of this don't have access to.
Yes.
And my question was like, how do you think that more students in Europe, more people can leverage these two vectors?
Okay. So to quickly repeat the question, it's twofold questions. Like one was about word models and in general, like the complexity behind them, leading to the fact that you mostly need to use open source. And the second one is just in general, to do robotics right now, you need a minimum budget. Both is true. So first of all, big fan of anybody who's combining computer vision with reasoning. Can be like going from nerves to word models, can be video AI and then reasoning in it, can be any, like it's a really, really interesting space right now because we're in this moment where computer vision will have a ChatGPT moment where like you will have like 2 or 3 applications that will just like change societies. So yeah, big fan. The other question, like how do you get like small budgets? Because like 5K shouldn't be a blocker, right? How do you get like small budgets to people who actually want to do stuff, you know? And I think genuinely like shit like that.
Like what? Like us?
Yes.
Yes.
I think these kind of projects should be supported in Europe. So one
Support us.
Tell me if you disagree.
No, I agree. We need so much support to, because like we know exactly what we want to do.
Mhm.
We just need resources to do that.
Exactly.
And we're gonna make it with or without resources.
Yeah.
We don't care.
So one thing I want to do like in near future is just like building up small grant programs where you can support hacker houses, where you can support accountability groups or communities who do stuff, you know, where you can support student groups, you know, where and so on, you know. Very frequently, these kind of pools are better creators of talent than any government or startup accelerator, like with a margin. Frequently because they don't like push you to instantly do a startup, but like figure out what your obsession is, kind of, and just like build something that you care about. Versus with a startup accelerator, you have 3 months to build like a company, and what is your business model, you know?
I just talked about this. Like it's going from make something people want to make something you want.
Yes.
Which is completely different.
Yes, I fully agree.
And I think we need both.
Yes.
Because we need some like not basic, but like some companies which are like made for VCs and all that. Simple, works, brings money. It's important. And also like some crazy shit that doesn't make any sense. Exploration mode, but with computer vision or whatever.
Yes.
Nobody knows what happens after, but it may work. And this is how I ended up with OpenAI and all those kind of crazy companies.
Fully agree.
I think we need both. And for me in Europe, like we have so much YC style things, not enough crazy style things. We would love to bring that with Anomaly. And even like in general, if there is any people working on this, please reach out. Like we'd love to bring that kind of crazy energy. And because I feel like this is how we make cool stuff. And as you said, like you talked about the fact that we need an autonomous society.
Yeah.
I think to make that happen,
Yeah.
we need to make some crazy stuff and be like on the front line of the edge and be like, okay,
100%.
let's make something new. Let's make something that nobody has done before. And yeah, I'm like, I'm so amazed that internet started in Switzerland.
Yeah.
We can make that happen again. That's the question. That's
And here we cut, and that's the ad for Anomaly. No, fully agree on everything. So one thing I learned on Product Hunt was like you need 2 stupid ideas to have a genius one,
exactly.
and that's one. And the other thing that I learned in like the last few years is like obsession and bias to action are resources that are completely underdeveloped, or like skills that are completely underdeveloped. And you can have like all the, like you cannot be ambitious about something without having an obsession.
Yeah.
You cannot like have.
We were talking about this like this morning with these 2 guys. I was like, well, what's your dream? What's your ambition? What's your like? What's the thing that it's so big that you're like, okay, if I reach that, yeah, it seems crazy, but if I reach that, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
And it's so hard because you don't have that culture in Europe. I keep talking to people like, make something crazy. They're like, I need to make money, I need to make this, I need to make that. Like, no, we should push even harder, and like we should solve those basic problems, like all the rents and invoices and all that. Like that's the basic. You have enough security to dream, and then dream and make shit happen. It's kind of hard. We don't have that culture for now. Would love to make it happen. So yeah, that's the dream, and I agree. with what
I
you
think
said.
we cut here. That was an
Works
awesome
for me.
last part.
Cool. Yes. Yes. Just one last thing. Nicola is saying she's going to an event with the Deputy Prime Minister of PL.
Yes. Make any politician you meet understand that there is no local solution to European problems in startups. You need European solutions because you need scale. Like it's all about scale. It's not that the Polish, I don't even know what it's called, limited entity, whatever, does have this or this or this wrong. It's about the fact that it's only for Poland. That's the problem. Like it's about scale. So make them understand that it's about scale, and you need European scale to make actually competitive against unified blocks like the USA, China, and so on. If you get this across, it's already like a 95% win, because that's a lot of the things that local politicians don't understand. And then number two is that they actually need to work with the startup ecosystem to get this right. And we try to summarize best practices that people like in the startup ecosystem like push for on eoinc.org. And if these two messages connect with the leader you're meeting, we have like a leader that's like 10 times better. And if they want to meet, like anytime.
Cool. And I'll do the same to people. Yes. Thank you a lot for joining us today. It was a pleasure. Yes. Thank you in wherever you are, in Germany, in Ireland, in Turkey, maybe in Sweden. Yes, we love you all. So yeah, join us later, maybe I don't know, maybe next week for another fireside chat. It's so random, so there is nothing planned, and yeah, I have something to do after, so I need to go. Thank you all. Thank you to all people here. It was a pleasure